20 years ago, Elias was abandoned in a hospital room, cradling his newborn twin daughters as the love of his life. Walked out without a backward glance, no note, no explanation, just silence. Left with nothing but grief and diapers. He built an empire from scratch, while raising two brilliant, young women on his own. Now, decades later, the woman who vanished without warning reappears, shocked to find Elias not broken, but powerful, loved and thriving. But what she doesn't know is that the man she left behind is long gone, and what lies ahead is not the reunion she imagined. The hospital room was a quiet refuge, filled only with the delicate murmurs of two newborns. Elias Grant sat on a stiff plastic chair, his work-roughened hands cradling his twin daughters, their tiny bodies wrapped in soft, hospital-issued blankets. Their skin was fair as moonlight, their emerald green eyes sparkling like gems, and their fine hair glistened like spun silver under the fluorescent lights. They bore no resemblance to him, a tall, broad-shouldered man with deep, brown skin and eyes shadowed by quiet resolve. Yet they were his entire world. His partner, Clara, had been distant since the birth, her gaze fixed on the window's smudged glass, her face a blank canvas of detachment. When nurses gently placed the babies in her arms, she barely stirred, her hands trembling as she turned away, as if motherhood was a weight she couldn't carry. 5 days later, Elias trudged home from his shift at the warehouse, his boots heavy with the dust of crates and sweat. The apartment door stood slightly open, a cold draft curling through the gap. Clara was gone. So was their savings, a small sum hidden in a coffee tin under the sink, along with his grandfather's pocket watch, its engraved face a cherished relic. All that remained were 2 cribs, a nearly empty jar of formula, and the neighbor, Mrs. Dolores, her eyes brimming with pity. "She left with some man in a sleek black car," she said softly, her voice heavy. "Didn't say a word." Elias sank onto the worn couch, the twins nestled against his chest, their tiny breaths warm against his flannel shirt. He wept until dawn, tears soaking the faded fabric, the weight of abandonment pressing against his heart. At first light he named them Nora and Ivy, their names a vow of hope and strength. He didn't know why Clara left, whether it was fear, shame, or a fleeting dream, but he swore her absence wouldn't define their lives. He would give his daughters everything she stole, and more. The world, however, was unyielding. Everywhere he went, curious stares followed. At the pediatrician's office, the corner market, or the playground's creaking swings, whispers trailed him. "Are those his kids? Or where's their mother?" He kept their birth certificates folded in his wallet, ready to silence doubts with proof of his fatherhood. Money was beyond scarce. It was a relentless worry, a shadow that clung to every decision. He sold his old truck, trading it for bus passes, and learned to navigate the city with 2 car seats, a diaper bag, and a heart full of determination. Elias became a master of fatherhood's balancing act, cradling both girls while warming bottles or folding tiny clothes in the dim light of a single lamp. He stayed up late watching grainy online tutorials to learn how to braid their hair, practicing on an old stuffed bear until he could weave Nora's tight curls and Ivy's soft waves with care. He took a second job scrubbing floors at a community center, the scent of pine cleaner lingering on his hands as he worked into the night. On weekends, he delivered groceries in a borrowed, rattling van, its engine coughing through the city's maze of streets. Sometimes Nora and Ivy came along, swaddled in fleece blankets in the back seat, their wide eyes tracking the city lights as he sang soft lullabies between deliveries. Sleep was a distant memory, snatched in fleeting moments on the bus or during breaks in a storage closet, his head resting against a broom. He never let the exhaustion show. Instead, he taught the girls to say thank you before please, packed their lunches with notes scrawled on napkins, "Dad's cheering for you," and mended their clothes with clumsy stitches. When Ivy caught a stubborn fever at 3, he slept on the rug beside her crib, his hand on her chest, counting each breath until the fever broke at dawn. When Nora froze during her first school play, too shy to speak, Elias stood at the back of the auditorium, mimicking her lines with exaggerated gestures until she giggled and found her voice. There are dark moments too, ones that left scars. At a pharmacy, a woman accused him of taking the girls, her voice sharp with suspicion. Police arrived, their radios crackling in the evening air. Elias sat on the sidewalk, Nora clinging to his neck, Ivy gripping his hand as he explained, his voice steady but his eyes stinging with unshed tears. The officers apologized, their faces softening, but the humiliation lingered, a wound that ached long after they left. He lost jobs when childcare fell apart, unable to afford a sitter on his stretched wages. He declined promotions that demanded late nights or travel, choosing his daughters over ambition. His sneakers, patched with layers of duct tape, lasted 6 years so. The girls could have jackets that fit and shoes without holes. Mrs. Dolores, the elderly widow across the hall, became their surrogate grandmother. Her apartment smelled of sweet potato pies and lavender, and she watched Nora and Ivy when Elias worked double shifts, telling them stories of her youth in a small coastal town. She baked them cornbread on Sundays and told Elias, "You're raising those girls better than most two-parent homes." By age 10, Nora was fascinated by engineering, sketching bridge designs on every scrap of paper and asking endless questions about structures and circuits. Ivy loved painting, turning old cardboard boxes into vibrant murals of forests and oceans. Elias built Nora a model bridge from popsicle sticks and string, its arches wobbling but sturdy enough to spark her excitement. He transformed their cramped living room into an art gallery for Ivy, hanging her paintings on the walls and inviting Mrs. Dolores as the guest of honor, who clapped like she was at a museum opening. One spring day in 5th grade, a classmate taunted Ivy, sneering that Elias wasn't her real father. She stood in the lunchroom, her voice clear. "My dad works 3 jobs, helps me paint, and never misses my art shows." "What does your dad do?" When she told Elias that evening, he paused, then hugged her tightly and said, "That's my warrior." One night, after a grueling 16-hour shift, Elias slumped onto the couch, his body aching. Nora handed him a drawing, a colorful sketch of their family under a bright sun. Their stick-figure hands linked. Ivy curled up beside him and said, "You're the best dad and mom." He didn't cry. He just held them close and whispered, "That's all I've ever wanted to be." He never searched for Clara, never lingered on the betrayal that had carved a hollow in his chest. Instead, he poured his heart into raising compassionate, brilliant daughters. They didn't just grow, they thrived, their spirits as vibrant as wildflowers in a storm. Late at night, after they were asleep, Elias would stand in the doorway of their shared bedroom, arms folded, watching their peaceful faces lit by a soft nightlight. No accolades, no fanfare, but to him, this was everything. He made a silent vow, "I'll never let them feel abandoned." That promise shaped every sacrifice, every choice, every moment of their lives. Years passed, filled with quiet triumphs and small joys. Nora won a science fair at 13, her model wind turbine earning a blue ribbon. Elias was there, cheering from the back, his work-stained hands clapping until they stung. Ivy's first painting was displayed at a community art show at 15, and Elias framed it, hanging it above the couch with pride. He learned to cook their favorite meals, Nora's spicy vegetable stew, Ivy's blueberry muffins, filling the apartment with warmth even on the hardest days. He attended every school event, arriving straight from work with warehouse dust on his sleeves or flour in his hair. When Nora struggled with physics, he stayed up late studying textbooks, his own high school lessons a distant memory, to help her solve equations. When Ivy faced rejection from an art contest, he sat with her on the fire escape, sharing stories of his own setbacks until she smiled and picked up her brush again. The girls grew into young women, their dreams taking shape like stars in a clear sky. Nora earned a scholarship to a top engineering program, her mind set on designing sustainable infrastructure. Ivy began exhibiting her art at local galleries, her paintings capturing the beauty of human resilience. Through it all, Elias was their anchor, his love unwavering, his sacrifices unseen but ever present. A new figure entered their lives during Nora's high school years, Mr. Raymond, a retired engineer who volunteered at the community center. He noticed Nora's passion for building and offered to mentor her, teaching her about structural design and renewable energy. Elias welcomed him, grateful for someone who saw Nora's potential. Mr. Raymond became a regular at their Sunday dinners, his stories of constructing bridges in distant countries inspiring Nora's ambitions. He gifted her a set of drafting tools, which she used to sketch her first bridge design, a sleek structure she dreamed of seeing built. Ivy, meanwhile, found a friend in Sophia, a young curator at a local gallery who admired her work. Sophia encouraged Ivy to explore bolder themes, helping her secure her first solo exhibition. Elias met Sophia at the gallery opening, his chest swelling with pride as Ivy spoke confidently about her art. These new connections enriched their lives, weaving a broader community around the family Elias had nurtured alone. It was a serene Sunday morning when a knock echoed through the apartment. Elias was in the kitchen, flipping blueberry pancakes, the scent of butter and fruit mingling with the soft hum of a radio playing jazz. Nora, now 20, sat at the dining table, typing a thesis for her master's program in civil engineering, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Ivy, graceful and introspective, was in the living room, practicing brush strokes for an upcoming exhibition, her canvas alive with vibrant colors. The apartment, though small, glowed with warmth, its walls covered in photos. Elias, a tall black man with a steady smile, flanked by two fair-skinned girls with emerald eyes and boundless dreams. The knock came again, sharper now. Elias wiped flour from his hands, adjusted his faded apron, and opened the door. He froze. It was Clara. 20 years had carved deep lines into her face, her once lustrous hair pulled into a tired ponytail, her coat threadbare and patched, out of season for the warm spring day. Her eyes, once fierce and unyielding, were dulled by exhaustion, rimmed with regret. "Elias," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He stood motionless, his hand gripping the doorknob, the wood cool against his palm. "I didn't know where else to turn," she continued, her words halting. "I've been trying to find the courage to come back for years." He spoke, his voice low and steady. "Why now, Clara?" She looked down at her scuffed shoes. "Because I'm tired of pretending I didn't destroy something precious." He stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind him, the morning air cool against his skin. "You didn't just leave me," he said. "You left 2 babies, helpless and innocent. You took our savings, our trust, even my grandfather's watch. I raised them alone, Clara, every fever, every tear, every dream they chased." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes, catching the sunlight. "I know, I can't undo it." He studied her, searching for a trace of the defiance she once carried, but found only sorrow. "They're grown now," he said. "Strong, incredible women. Do you want to see them?" Her hands trembled as she nodded. "Just for a moment, please." He opened the door, and the air grew thick with tension. Nora looked up from her laptop, her brow creasing. Ivy paused, her brush hovering over the canvas, her eyes narrowing. Clara stepped inside, her voice fragile as glass. "I'm your mother." Silence stretched heavy and unbroken for a full 10 seconds. "I know I don't belong here," Clara said, her words shaking. "I made the worst choice a mother could make. I left you chasing something I thought was freedom. It wasn't, it broke me. I lived in hostels, on park benches, in places I can't even name. I lost myself. Every day I wondered what you looked like, what I'd missed. I'm not here to fix anything. I just needed to say I'm sorry." Ivy crossed her arms, her face unreadable. Nora stood, her voice calm but firm. "You left us with nothing but a few diapers and half a can of formula." "I know," Clara whispered, her head bowed. "And he gave us everything," Nora added, her eyes flicking to Elias. Clara's knees buckled slightly. She sank into a chair, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You don't have to forgive me," she said. "I just needed you to know I never stopped loving you, even when I was too broken to show it." Ivy stepped forward, her voice soft but resolute. "I used to sit by the window, waiting for you to come back. Every holiday, every milestone." "I know," Clara murmured, her voice cracking. "But the truth is," Nora said, "we grew up whole because Dad never let us feel incomplete." The silence was heavy, a shared weight. Then Nora crossed the room and hugged her mother, not tightly, but with a quiet tenderness, her arms a bridge across years of pain. Ivy followed, placing a gentle hand on Clara's shoulder. "Oh, we forgive you," Ivy said softly, "because we've already healed. But we're not your little girls anymore," Nora added. "And we're not starting over." Clara nodded, her sobs quiet but raw, her hands clutching the chair's edge. The girls handed her a small wooden box, its surface worn but polished. Inside were photographs, Nora's first science fair ribbon, Ivy's painted canvases, Elias teaching them to ride bikes on a cracked sidewalk, his face smudged with flour after a baking mishap, glitter in his hair from one of Ivy's art projects. "This is what you missed," Ivy said, her tone gentle but final. Clara held the box like a fragile relic, her fingers tracing the images, her eyes glistening. She didn't ask for more. She rose, her steps slow, and left without another word, her silhouette fading into the morning light. Elias watched from the window, his heart steady, not with triumph but with a profound calm. Clara's return had stirred old wounds, but it also brought a clarity he hadn't expected. He had raised his daughters not just to survive, but to thrive, and that was enough. That evening, the three sat on the fire escape, mugs of chamomile tea steaming in the cool air, the city's lights twinkling below like a sea of stars. "You okay, Dad?" Nora asked, her voice soft as she leaned against the railing. He nodded, his gaze on the horizon where the sky met the skyline. "That was hard," Ivy said, pulling her sweater tighter, her eyes reflecting the city's glow. Elias exhaled, his breath visible in the evening chill. "Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing the past," he said. "It means choosing peace over pain." He looked at his daughters, Nora, an engineer designing sustainable cities, Ivy, an artist whose paintings stirred hearts. They were more than he'd ever dreamed, their strength a testament to every late night, every sacrifice, every moment of unwavering love. "You two made it all worth it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "No," Nora replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "You made us possible." Ivy nodded, her hand finding his, her fingers warm against his calloused palm. He didn't speak again, just smiled, his eyes misty. Deep within, the ache that had lingered for 20 years softened into closure, a quiet resolution that felt like coming home. The weeks that followed were gentle, a return to routine, but with a new lightness. Nora presented her thesis at a university symposium, her design for a solar-powered bridge earning applause from professors and a grant to fund her research. Elias was there in the back row, his work boots still dusted with warehouse grit, his smile wide as she spoke passionately about sustainable infrastructure. Ivy's art exhibition opened at Sophia's gallery, her paintings vivid depictions of human resilience, drawing a crowd of admirers. Elias stood by her side, his chest swelling as she explained her work, her voice confident and warm. Mr. Raymond and Mrs. Dolores attended, their presence a reminder of the community that had grown around them. Mrs. Dolores, now frailer but still spirited, brought sweet potato pies, her laughter filling the gallery. Mr. Raymond, his eyes bright with pride, told Nora, "You're going to build bridges that last generations." Elias began to dream again, not just for his daughters, but for himself. Encouraged by Mr. Raymond, he enrolled in a night course in small business management, thinking he might one day open a repair shop, a place to fix engines and appliances, where he could work with his hands and still be home for dinner. Nora sketched logos for the shop, her designs sleek and modern, while Ivy wrote a tagline, "Grant's Repairs, built on heart." A new character entered their lives, Malik, a young mechanic who worked at the warehouse with Elias. Malik, in his late 20s, had grown up in foster care and saw Elias as a mentor, often joining them for Sunday dinners. He taught Nora about engine mechanics, sparking her interest in automotive design, and shared stories of his travels that inspired Ivy's paintings. Malik's presence brought a new energy to the family, his humor and resilience a mirror to their own. He and Elias spent evenings tinkering with old appliances in the apartment's tiny garage, talking about life and fatherhood. "You're the kind of dad I wish I'd had." Malik said one night, his voice quiet. Elias clapped a hand on his shoulder. Your family now, son. The girls embraced Malik as a brother, and he became a fixture in their lives, joining them for game nights and helping Ivy hang her paintings. Months later, a letter arrived, its envelope worn and smudged. It was from Clara. Elias hesitated, then opened it with Nora and Ivy beside him, the kitchen table lit by a single lamp. Her words were simple, written in a shaky hand. I carry the photos you gave me every day. They remind me of what I lost and what you built. I'm trying to rebuild too, in a small way, working at a shelter, helping others who lost their way. Thank you for raising our girls into women I could never deserve. I won't come back, but I'll always be grateful. Elias folded the letter, his heart steady. Nora squeezed his hand. You gave us more than she ever could, she said. Ivy nodded. And you gave us the strength to forgive. They sat together that evening, the apartment filled with the scent of Mrs. Dolores's cornbread, the radio playing softly. Malik joined them, his laughter blending with theirs as they shared stories of the past and dreams for the future. Outside, the city hummed, its rhythm a backdrop to their quiet resilience. As the years unfolded, Nora's designs began to take shape in the real world. Her first bridge, a sleek structure powered by solar panels, opened in a nearby town, and Elias was there for the ribbon cutting, his eyes glistening as Nora's name was engraved on a plaque. Ivy's paintings gained national recognition. Her work featured in a traveling exhibition that told stories of hope and healing. Elias attended every opening, his pride a quiet glow. He opened his repair shop, Grant's Repairs, Ned with Malik as his partner. The small storefront a testament to his perseverance. The girls helped decorate it, Nora installing solar lights, Ivy painting a mural of a bridge, stretching toward a vibrant horizon. Mrs. Dolores, now in her late 70s, visited often, bringing pies and stories, her presence a constant warmth. Malik proposed opening a community workshop in the shop, teaching kids like him how to fix things, and Elias agreed, seeing it as a way to give back. One quiet evening, Elias sat on the fire escape with Nora, Ivy and Malik, the city sparkling below. They sipped hot chocolate, the mugs warming their hands as a cool breeze carried the scent of autumn leaves. You ever think about what might have been if she'd stayed? Nora asked, her voice soft. Elias shook his head. Doesn't matter. What matters is what we built together. Ivy smiled. You built us, Dad. Malik raised his mug. To family, chosen and made. They clinked mugs, the sound a small celebration of their shared journey. Elias looked at his daughters, their faces lit by the city's glow, and at Malik, whose presence had added a new chapter to their story. The ache of Clara's absence had faded, replaced by a peace deeper than he'd ever known. They were his legacy, his joy, his reason, and in their strength he found his own. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below and let us know where you're reading from. Until next time, stay kind, stay inspired, and keep building. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful news. Thanks for watching.